This is about the author, Nicholson Baker. Because I enjoy reading collections of essays, I found myself burrowing through a copy of The Size of Thoughts by Nicholson Baker. Nicholson Baker is, according to the back cover of the book, the foremost writer of his generation, but he is not, cannot be, everyone's cup of tea. The man with the fastidious name is a ballet dancer when it comes to prose, leaping and flying and turning madly about and doing it all very daintily. His work represents the triumph of style over substance. Years ago I read a book by him, The Mezzanine. I know he cherished that word, mezzanine. It was about escalators and gleaming surfaces, and as far as I can recall, it was quirky and queer as it could be. Reading Nicholson Baker reminds me of reading Henry James, and I would say that reading Henry James is like spelunking, very difficult going, threading your way inch by tortuous inch through a dark and narrow world, but if you stick with it, the reward being, possibly, a vision into something few others have ever seen or imagined. Not surprisingly, James is one of Baker's literary heroes, along with Alexander Pope and Vladimir Nabokov, whom he calls the dandiest dandy of them all. Baker, like Walt Whitman, is worlds within worlds. He's expansive. He can make a full cantata out of a pop song. Where others might see a patch of grass, a bit of front lawn, or a tiny and uninteresting field, Baker will see a prairie, a continent, a planet. When he discourses on the size of thoughts, he marches them out proudly, with a finer beauty and greater pomp than any mere material objects might possess. It's magical, but it's not sleight of hand, it's sleight of mind. He is, by nature, a complicator, an imp, who insists that we take the very long way around, even a simple explanation. He knows that nothing, at heart, is ever simple. He reminds me of one who makes origami, folding and folding and folding until, voila, he holds up something wonderful, having created an entirely new dimension out of flat paper, or in his case, an alternative imaginary dimension out of thought. It's magical and maddening to watch him at work, bending his argument, overlapping his examples, building to the reveal. And he can be maddening. Reading him can be like squeezing the water out of frozen spinach. He walks, as he once said, the fine line between specificity and tedium, and that line is exceedingly fine and dangerous. Readers, unless they are true devotees, can get lost, can miss the point entirely. He has a droll sense of humor combined with an absolutely serious profundity, resulting in the rococo oddity that is his shameless, vulgar, and spiritual self. His brain is constantly cooking these things up, pushing them out into the real world. Puddings, cookies, cakes, delicacies, delectable pastries, imaginary, and yet because of his intricate engineering, you can smell them, taste them, see them before you. He is a master of composition, especially when working on miniature marvels of exquisitely fine design. His work can fashion a shade of Tiffany glass, or the inner workings of a Philippe Patek chronometer. Baker flaunts the triviality of his attention. He writes glowingly about nail clippers, model airplanes. He buys them but does not take them out of the box. Don't ask. Library card catalogs, he mourns their destruction. Slang, rated XXX, film projectors, the history of punctuation. He's a big fan of the semicolon and the use of the word lumber in English literature. He cares tremendously about things that are very small in the world, and he has small concern for things the world holds up as tremendous. He isn't easygoing. He can't resist dropping the occasional arcane word and doing it lovingly, as he would offer an exotic orchid or a precious gem. He can be difficult to digest, as if you were eating spoonful after spoonful of pure honey, yes, the taste and texture of it, and even the distinct sharp tang of the clover or the lavender or the apple blossoms. But quickly the experience can become overwhelming and repugnant, and you can't go on. It's too much of a good thing. He begins in excess and leads the parade out from there. He is a piper, a brilliant, scurrilous scamp.